I'm not the producer on this project, I'm just the director, and the Twins manager, Ronnie Cuthbert's the producer, and she approached me. And it was all pretty straightforward, to be honest. We pitched it, people said yes, they gave us the money, we made a movie. I mean, you know, in terms of the process of getting there, it seemed to people who read the treatment that it was a story that should be told, you know. Their story's fantastic. They're not just comedian entertainers. They are political activists. They're out lesbian women. They are part of New Zealand's history in a way that's really, really important. You know, they were at Bastion Point. They were on the field at Hamilton in 1981. They were part of the anti-nuclear movement in a big way. They were part of the homosexual law reform bill movement in a big way. Every sort of really important social change that's happened in New Zealand over the last 30 years, the Twins have been part of, you know, and in some cases provided a soundtrack for it. So it was really exciting to be able to tell a story that was not just the story of these two amazing women, but the story of New Zealand's last 30 years of coming of age. I say it's a coming of age story and a love story. It's a coming of age story for a nation, but it's also sort of a love story between these two amazing women who have a really strong bond, but also this really fascinating relationship they have with New Zealand. It's quite a bizarre thing that two fully out lesbians from Huntly and who are political and outspoken and stroppy are absolutely mainstream. And you go on tour with them around New Zealand, and the most ordinary of ordinary people love them and respond to them. And that's kind of a funny little contradiction that people who you might see as on the radical edge or whatever in other countries are, without question, mainstream. You know, there's no debate about it. I feel quietly confident that it'll do really, really well in New Zealand. I think just mainly because people love the Twins. And actually what'll be really interesting is whether we can get people into the cinema who don't either know them or like them, or never thought that they would go and see something with the Topp Twins in it. What I'm hoping is that word of mouth is such that people will hear that, look, this is a celebration. It's a celebration about these two amazing individuals, but it's also a celebration about this country and what kind of makes it unique. And the fact that this sort of little place on the bottom of the planet embraced two lesbian girls from the farm is unique. And that's kind of the heart of the story, if you like. And I'm hoping that that resonates beyond just the people who like the Topp Twins. I'm Canadian originally, but I came to New Zealand in 1985. I came because I met a boy, you know, as you do. And in the 90s I went to the UK and spent 5 years working for the BBC, Channel 4, ITV, and a couple of the American networks from London. And to be honest, kind of found myself as a filmmaker in those years in the UK. I made a lot of documentaries in that period, and I worked with some of the best filmmakers and producers in the world. So it was a pretty fantastic learning curve, really. I came back in 1997. I was pregnant with my first child, so we decided we couldn't keep doing the kind of work we were doing in the UK anyway. I was away. When I was living in the UK, I was always out of London. I was never in London, and I didn't want to do that as a parent. So we chose to come back to New Zealand to breed. And I took a year off, actually, the first year after my child was born, and then I set up Specific Films. Yeah. I have to say that I've been pretty lucky in the sense that I've been reasonably well supported by the funding bodies, so I can't really complain. I've made work that I'm proud of, and while it's a struggle always because the budgets are a bit smaller and we're isolated and, you know, all the usual problems, I haven't made anything I don't feel good about. And so at the end of the day, that's the sort of prerequisite for wanting to be a filmmaker here. If I didn't feel I could do that, then maybe we would think about going and living somewhere else where I could do work. I have 2 children, yeah, I have two little girls, and I think one of the reasons I do choose to live and work here, even though there are challenges to do with budgets and distances and in some cases the lack of public broadcasting support, I choose to live and work here partly because I think it's a great place to raise my kids, and we've achieved, I think, quite a good life-work balance. I promise I did all the research, and I production managed it as well, actually. It's the only way to make the budget go for as long as it did. And that is one of the big differences. You know, when I worked at the BBC, I had a crew of people around me to support me, researchers, production managers, PAs, and that did make things easier, and it meant that you could do sort of bigger productions. I have, on subsequent films, on Try Revolution and Being Billy Apple, had somebody working as a production manager on it at least, so I didn't have to do that as well. The checklist for me is this a story? Is there any kind of journey in here? Is there, a story that's going to engage an audience, not just me? And I do usually ask myself if I can engage an audience outside New Zealand, because a lot of documentary gets shown quite late at night here. It can be a bit soul-destroying to spend 2 years of your life bleeding for a film to find it disappear into the ether and get seen by a really small audience. And at the end of the day, filmmakers want to find an audience. So the criteria for me is it a great story? Will it resonate with an audience? And will it resonate with the world, not just with the New Zealand audience? Maybe, yeah. It's always hard to say because it's the only perspective I've got. I know when I worked in the UK, I was conscious that not being English actually was helpful, because the English were so obsessed with class that I could move between the classes and not be in any way boxed. If I was interviewing, very posh people, they forgave me for not knowing enough about being posh because I was a, dirty, rotten colonial. And when I talked to working class people, they didn't hate me because I wasn't posh. So, there was that. That really helped in the UK. In New Zealand, it's a little bit different for me because I have been here a long time. My husband's a New Zealander. My children are Kiwis, and I kind of do see myself as a Kiwi, I have to say. I wasn't here in 1981, but I feel like I was. And so I don't really know because it's the only perspective I've got. But I do think that having lived in lots of different places in some ways lets me see the things that are amazing about New Zealand, and I think that hopefully came through in the Topp Twins film. I mean, I think my wonder at this relationship these women have with New Zealand is maybe accentuated by the fact that I'm not from here, and so it seems so incredible, that this could happen, because I just don't know if it would happen in anywhere else, to be honest, And the film, really, I wanted to be able to play, and I wanted it to be it really is a crossover of different genres. Well, it's a documentary in the sense that it tells this story in a factual way, and it's a biopic. It's also a concert film. We hung the film on a concert which the twins wrote specifically for the documentary, where they tell stories about their life and they sing songs about their childhood. And so when they sing a song about their childhood, I get the chance as a filmmaker to then leave the concert and go into their childhood. So the concert provides the film with a framework, really. The great thing is that through the years, people have documented this journey because they have been in the public eye since the early 80s. And so there's footage of them busking as babies in Queen Street, which is where they kind of first got their start. I mean, they used to create havoc in Queen Street. They got arrested for causing traffic jams because so many people would stop to watch them play on a Friday night that, traffic would stop. I had the most wonderful crew. I had Leon Narby and Wayne Vinton DOPing, and Tim Woodhouse, who I've worked with on all my films in New Zealand, was the editor, and David Long did the music, who I've also worked with on previous films. So, it's always a big team effort anyway. I sort of did vox pops with people while we were making the film who would come out of the Topp Twins gigs, and I'd say, what is it you like about the Topp Twins, And people, almost every single person, it was like a script had been handed out, said, oh, well, they're such ordinary Kiwi girls. And I'd say, not really. And I'd say, they are gay. And all these people would go, oh, we don't care about that. That doesn't matter. And I was really struck by that because everyone said it. It was like, what we love is that they are real.